Right.
And it carries you off into university. You did things like geometry, music, grammar is very important. Grammar and arithmetic and logic were the first thing taught, because you can't be logical unless your foundations in grammar are correct. You can't construct a sentence.
Yeah.
A semantically correct sentence.
That's right.
But then you can't put together a logical argument.
That's right.
Now, when everybody used to go to university and they did things like philosophy and even English, you had to do a course in logic. It was a compulsory unit.
Yeah.
But mind you, 50, 60 years ago, people that went to universities were quite few.
Yeah.
Were quite small. So the quality of the average student was very high because it was bloody hard to get in.
Yeah, yeah.
Now you've got what? I mean, how many go now? 1 in 3, 1 in 4. And you can't do that unless you lower the standard.
That's right.
You know, and that's what they've done. So they've dumbed everything down. But from secondary education to tertiary education, it's all been dumbed down. And up to now, the sciences and engineering were safe. But now even they've been infiltrated by the new age lefty philosophy.
Yes.
You know. I went through Polytechnic back in the 70s. And it was a part-time degree in those days, because I was an apprentice and and you know it's British television. So they used to give us 1 day off a week to go to Poly and get a degree over about 3.5 years. It was part-time. It was about 1 day a week, from 9 in the morning till 9 at night. Because you had your naps. This is fun when you're young.
Yeah.
But even then it was bloody hard. You know? But if you go back before the war, I mean, most universities, like Oxford or Cambridge, they were very, very selective. Only a few got in.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I'm not sure about anywhere else, but certainly within Western Europe, they've been dumbing down for a long time.
Oh, for sure. The education system is not where it used to be.
Of course, the agenda is, but there's another alternative agenda going on.
That's right.
Which if you talk to people, they don't want to hear.
Yeah.
And they don't want to know anything. You know?
Yeah. But I mean, they're following another philosophy, which is that hear no evil, see no evil. I mean, it's what cats do, isn't it? I think cats are either little babies which, when they see something they don't like, they just close their eyes.
Yes.
Thinking that just because I've closed my eyes and I can't see it, therefore it doesn't exist. So they're hoping that it would just go away, but it's just compounding the problem, I think. The few people speaking out, the few people that are actually challenging the norms. It's because, you know what, I think, personally, I think that, you know, the more you go away from moral anchorage, the more you think that morality is subjective, the more people become individualistic. And when you become individualistic, then rather than having a community, you've got pockets within a community. Each pocket is trying to serve its own interest. And that has become more fragmented, with each individual being an island. Which I think even in the UK, when I just get out of London and just drive up a little bit, just the sense of community. In fact, forget driving up, just go east to Wales. The sense of community that's in Wales.
It's true, it's very good. But unfortunately, once you have a system based upon... Now, look, I believe in the free market. I mean, I really do. But it has to be free, and it has to be controlled. You know? Otherwise, they'll just pursue profit at the expense of everybody else.
That's right.
Which is part of human nature.
Of course.
That's what people do. You know? So you have to have a strong community in order to keep that under control. But unfortunately, like I was saying to you in the West, I possibly but even outside the West, the governments are really dumbing everything down to stop that. But they're taking away our ability to control that society.
Yeah.
I mean, the state has got far too much power that was never given to it, it was just taken, you know.
It's funny you mentioned that because there's a German philosopher called Theodor Adorno.
Yes.
And he said exactly what you just said, but he gave the case study of magazines, movies, radio. He says they distract us from two things. Number one, from getting to know our purpose, and number two, from being able to instill political change.
The thing was, he was part of the Frankfurt School, wasn't he?
Right.
Very much so. And of course, those people aren't really in our interest anyway, because they're all Marxists. Right?
Yeah.
And they believe in they always believe in the supreme power of the government, basically, to impose its will.
Yeah.
Which is why I like the American Constitution, which recognises the people have the right to self-defence and to be armed.
Yes.
Also to keep their government under control because they're armed.
Yeah.
But of course, over the past 100 years, with total commercialisation, people have, but they've forgotten their basic rights.
That's right.
And their responsibilities too.
I think G.K. Chesterton said.
I know him. I don't know much about him, but I know of him. But
I think I'm in the same boat as you. There was one quote of his that really kind of stands out. He says, "God being dead doesn't imply that there is no God. It just means that people will take anything and everything as a God." It could be. I mean, sure, you know, some people, they go to work, they make that their purpose, they make that their be-all and end-all.
Well, some work's very, very creative and interesting, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, as an engineer, I didn't get a great degree. I just about got through it.
Degrees are overrated anyway, you know.
Well, at the time, I mean, like when you're young, all you want to do is go out and have fun.
That's right.
But had I studied properly, maybe I could have done something more creative and interesting, but within the work sphere, you know. So I actually regret it now. But there again, I've got a good pension, I'm tired. I didn't have to work very hard. Like, you know what the post was. So very easy guys, you know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I sort of did sacrifice my life. You know, and it was a big mistake, you know. Because as an individual, you have to have purpose. But you might be doing something creative.
That's right.
You know, which most people aren't given that opportunity. You know, most people do boring jobs.
Yeah.
Incredibly dull.
That's why, you know, I think it's important for the youngsters, for the young generation to speak to the elder generation, to learn from their mistakes. This whole I have to reinvent the cycle, I think it's restricting progress.
Some of the older generation.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
most of my generation are completely delusional. I mean, they're into, you know, like I still go out too much and drink, you know, but most people live for that.
Yeah.
And
true.
it can take you over.
That's right.
I mean, there's something nice about sitting in the pub, reading the paper, having a chat. There's something communal about the whole thing, and it is nice. But in some ways, it does tend to take away your sense of purpose.
It does.
Which at my age, it's not really relevant anymore. But
you'd be surprised though. To be honest, like, what's your ballpark figure of your age?
I'm 68.
68. So the Prophet, peace be upon him, he died when he was 63.
Who, sorry?
The Prophet Muhammad.
Oh yeah, which for the time was probably quite old. You know?
Exactly. But the fact that, you know, a lot of people, like his successor was around his age.
Yeah.
So I do believe there's some credence to you're only as old as you feel. Although some people...
Well, there is something in there, yeah.
Of course. And as you go, I think the more experience you get, you become definitely an asset. I'd say you become an
I
asset.
mean,
The way society unfortunately treats people with experience, I don't think that's reflective of, say, previous societies that would respect elders. For example, even in the Islamic religion, they say if an older person comes, you have to treat them like your father, pretty much.
yes.
Um,
It's a good philosophy. I've got no problem.
and definitely, I've seen it needed now more than ever, because I was a school teacher for a short while, about 6 years, and I could see it was like I could see the holes in the narrative, in the sense that what the kids were missing and what the kids needed, and I obviously had to go through a curriculum, and I was constantly at odds with it, unhappy with, I mean, why aren't we talking about this, why aren't we talking about that, because there are a few fundamental things that kids do need to learn from a small age, and just repeating stuff again and again I don't think is helpful. But I mean, that's something else. But
Well, there's something you should do, and that is to look into the several liberal arts, which is what European education system used to be based on. You used to do the first three, the trivium, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. It means three anyway.
yeah.
And when you did the other four,
Yeah.
and then after you finished you then were able to go to university. And they used to start university younger. I mean, but they could start when they were 16 or even
Wow.
15. I mean, and the actual standards, for the few admittedly,
Yeah.
given that system was very good, excellent, and it works. The first thing the governments did is to get rid of that and to bring in the modern secondary school. I mean, I went to a secondary modern, right? I didn't get through mine first. I was sent to a
11
secondary
plus
modern.
was difficult. I remember struggling as well.
I took a bit too young, Yeah, and I did it. I mean, it was back in the 60s. And so I got to a secondary modern. But at the same time, secondary modern schools were superior to any comprehensive system. I mean, like these have fully kitted out. I've got metal work, I've got lathes, milling machines, forges. So the kids were taught how to use their hands, how to make things.
I love
metal, woodwork, full range of tools, completely
Fantastic.
full of stock.
Fantastic.
Now, what they have, they give a kid a pair of scissors and a bit of cardboard, and that's supposed to teach them mechanical skills.
That's so true. That's so true.
And none of this is done by accident. It's all planned, but to make people dependent and even useless.
Yeah.
And this is the sinister plan.
To make them part of the system, isn't it? It's the post-industrial revolution. You didn't want independent thinkers. You just wanted someone that could fit within the supply chain, do their job, not question, and be too busy, be entertained. Breads and circuses, be entertained to such a degree. Just keep your mouth closed.
And it's worked beautifully.
It really has.
Even people with good degrees still walk around closed-minded.
That's right.
And I can't believe it. I say, look, read this, and you can even show them something written by the government itself.
Yes.
And they go on to know, but they won't look at it. And these are bloody modern graduates.
Yeah. To be honest, it's like even coming across a guy with a PhD. I mean, somebody with a PhD, he has a PhD in a specific field.
Yeah.
Back in the days, when you had something like a PhD, forget PhD and specialism in one thing, they were called polymaths.
Yeah.
Even in the Spain, when Spain was ruled by the Muslim Empire, you had Khwarizmi, Ibn Sina, Kindi. These guys were giants. They were polymaths. I mean, even here, you had Aristotle, Plato. These guys had opinions, like credible opinions, when it came to various aspects of our life.
But the thing was, you were taught the foundations of thought.
Oh, for sure.
And you were taught logic, Aristotelian logic, basically, which you were still taught.
That's right.
But you had to do grammar first.
Of course.
Because you had to learn how to construct your sentence.
Yes.
And if you haven't got that level of understanding of your grammar, then you're screwed big time, because you can't think in a coherent way.
That's right.
And I'm spending my time going back retrospectively to actually study the things within grammar that I should remember, silly things. Really, trivial things. But I should know them.
Yeah, I think it depends where you use them. For example, if you look at modus ponens, knowing if, then these sorts of things, they may seem trivial, but if you don't understand what they imply or what they mean, I mean, you won't be able to apply logic successfully.
And it's all based on Aristotle's categories in his book.
That's right.
It's all based on that. I mean, that man used. But if you try and read that bloody book,
Yeah.
it's so confusing and badly written.
Yeah.
The guy couldn't have written any worse, than the way he did. It's such a confusing book to read that you really need someone there that's a master that can take you through it.
I think, even when people talk about the Ihya, there's a book written by Al-Ghazali, who is credited with the cosmological argument, which also has a syllogism as well. When he talks about the incoherence of the philosophers, I mean, I'd use the same sentiment like yourself. It's so difficult to read, but people say that you have to have a certain background of the incoherence of the philosophers at that time for you to understand that, okay, this is because a lot of things sometimes they're written shorthand, and the thing is, in order for you to understand what that shorthand is, you have to know about the historical context, you have to know about grammar usage at that time, prose usage at that time, and it really becomes difficult to decipher. I mean, certain philosophical books, they just, especially Nietzsche.
Tried reading him.
You know what they said about him? They said that later he was so ill that the doctor said you shouldn't be writing. If you feel compelled to write, don't write more than, say, 20 minutes.
Yes.
So that's why when he would be traveling, he would have 20-minute bursts of just writing, because his health was significantly deteriorating. So, but when people read it, they read it thinking it's some continuous prose, because you're not going to get, okay, that was 20 minutes at that time when Nietzsche was going through this and that. Again, I guess it's like certain verses of scripture as well. You need context when it comes to something that was written back in the days. But
the thing is, where's this leadership going to come from? I'm like, where are these people that can sit down with us and look at Aristotle, for example, his books, logic and all the rest of it, and take us through it in a coherent way? I've tried looking at YouTube, and you find the odd chap on there that explains it. But even that's not brilliant. I mean, even that's confusing to some degree. I mean, these true teachers don't really exist, I don't think, because they can't simplify it enough for the average man to comprehend it.
There's somebody whose books I think I find fascinating. There's somebody called Prince Ghazi of Jordan. So the thing with him is he studied Western philosophy as well, but he studied religious philosophy as well. And the way he weaves between the two, picking up principles that we can apply in our daily life, that's why I like his stuff, because it's quite pertinent to the issues that we're that's happening today. For example, he poses a question. He says, what's happiness?
What is happiness?
Yeah. Well, what would you say in your understanding what happiness?
Sounds a bit like the thing that Socrates would say, doesn't it? What is happiness? And then he would destroy everybody's definition of it straight away.
I'm not going to do that. Maybe.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what he's famous for.
He is the Socratic
Asking
method.
Questions that he full knew most people couldn't answer.
That's right.
I've been making them look silly.
That's right.
But I mean, yes, I mean, I take your point. Trying to pin people down to that method. Actually, question.
No, like with him, the Socratic method is there for a purpose to break down certain people that are very staunch in their views. But what he does in his book, What is Happiness, is he actually goes through what happiness is not, what happiness could be, and what happiness is. He actually gives a conclusion.
So he comes to a conclusion?
He does.
But whereas Socrates never really comes to a conclusion.
Exactly.
He just tells you what it isn't.
Yeah. Which sometimes can be quite jarring, because because when
disturbing, very disturbing.
Especially when somebody's, at a very difficult part of their life. Maybe their wife's left them, maybe they've lost their job,
every so often. You know.
She's still around, yeah? That's
No,
fantastic.
But sometimes maybe people are sensible, like in avoiding these questions because they know they haven't got the ability to come to the conclusion. But maybe they're doing the right thing. But for their own psychological stability,
Yeah.
question can send you loopy.
It can.
Yeah.
But definitely stuff to do with purpose, like we've highlighted, is so integral.
Yeah.
Without purpose, you're just a directionless
And you need
vehicle. Yeah, you need to have an objective. You need to have a goal. Even in business, Simon Sinek's written a book called "What's Your Why." Even in business, he goes to CEOs and he tells them, "Look, you need to have your staff need to have a why. You need to have a why. There needs to be purpose, and that purpose can't just be materialistic. That can't just be mere profit accumulating." And that's what Jim Carrey said. He said, "I wish people earned and became famous, earned wealth, to realize that that's not what's going to bring you happiness."
No, but it helps.
It certainly does.
If you've got money, it helps. You know.
Oh, for sure.
You know.
But you've probably seen the sitcom Only Fools and Horses.
Yes.
Fantastic, just classic in British sitcom. But
Excellent.
what really stands out to me is right at the end, where Del Boy and Rodney are standing in Nelson Mandela House,
Yeah.
and there's no furniture there, and Del Boy goes, "What do I do now?
Yes.
What do I do now?" It was the journey, it was the action, it was literally the steps that made life worth living, and that's what was exciting. Now that we've reached here, what do we do now, bruv? That's what he says. And
I have to go. It's been lovely chatting.
yeah, no, likewise.
You look after yourself.
Yeah, take care, bye. Ah, welcome salam.
Just want to say you're doing a very good job. We
Thank
see
you,
you on
bro.
YouTube all the time.
mashallah.
The brother came all the way from Halifax.
Ah.
He's been saying it for 3 days.
At the bank, yeah? Should have gone to Santander.
Yeah, he said he wants to come and see Speaker's Corner. I said, let's come. It's my first time as well. And inshallah, we just made it in the nick of time. We saw one of our favourite YouTubers. I'll keep on doing a good job.
No, jazakallah.
Nice
Nice to meet you. Nice to
other brothers to come here. Like,
Ali should be coming today. Hijab not so, but Hashim and so they should be coming a bit later on. Yeah.
Shamsi and no.
Shamsi, I don't know. About Shamsi, no. I don't know.
When did you get here then?
I got here about half an hour ago.
We got here about 2 hours ago, but still quite here.
Yeah, no, don't come earlier than 1:30.
Yeah, so we went to the restaurant and came back.
Yeah. Salam. So yeah.